Awesome. So several faces coming through now. Hello, everyone. We might get started. Just going to let the last couple of people in here who are still in the waiting room. Lovely. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight for the launch of Luke Best's Cadaver Dog. During tonight's launch, we'll be hearing a sample of Luke's work, and we'll also be hearing from several other fantastic writers this evening. So we've got a lineup of speakers for you tonight. I'd like to begin the event by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which I'm currently broadcasting to you from, the Yagara and Turrbal people. I pay my respects to elders past and present, and acknowledge that this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Now, before I hand you over to our speakers this evening, I also just want to reiterate a bit of the information that was sent to you in my email with your link to tonight's event. And so you've all automatically been placed on mute, but that doesn't mean that Luke doesn't want to answer any questions. He definitely does, and we'll be taking them, but it's just in a little bit of a different way than you might expect. So we've got a chat box function, which hopefully most of you can see. If you can't, then it's down to the lower left of your screen towards the center. And it will pop up any minute now because I'm going to be posting the link to purchase your copy of Cadaverdog down there in a minute. In that chat box, you can type your questions for Luke and they'll come directly to me. And when we hand over to questions at the end of the event, I'll read them out along with your name and any comments. So please start sending those through and I will read them out for you at the end. The other thing that I want to mention is that at the moment Avid Reader has a promotion on where if you place an order on our website and you use the code EVENT at checkout, then you receive 10% off your order site-wide. And as I said, I'll be posting the link to purchase your copy of Cadaverdog in the chat box when we begin. So I recommend getting in early and making the most of that discount while we have it. So it's EVENT, E-V-E-N-T. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Luke Best. Luke was born in Toowoomba, where he lives and works. His poetry has been published in literary journals including Overland, Verity, Stilts Journal, Concrescence, Mascara Literary Review, and Tincture Journal. His manuscript Percussion was highly commended in the 2017 Thomas Shapcott Prize. Cadaverdog is Luke's first book and won the 2019 Thomas Shapcott Prize. So now, as I mentioned, we're going to be hearing from several speakers this evening, and your first is Aviva Tuffield. Aviva is a publisher at the University of Queensland Press and was a co-founder and the inaugural executive director of the Stella Prize. And so Aviva, it is now my pleasure to hand over to you. Oh, sorry, Aviva. Just going to take you off mute.
Sorry, that was entirely my fault. I muted myself despite your instruction just then about only you would be able to do it. Anyway, thank you, Emma Kate. Thank you for unmuting me, and thank you to all of you who've joined us here tonight. Firstly, I too would like to acknowledge that I'm zooming from the unceded traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and pay my respects to elders past and present. I'd also like to thank Avid Reader for hosting this launch and for all that they're doing to support authors, publishers and readers, especially in 2020. Please repay their support by buying many copies of this book and other titles from them. I'm delighted to be part of this launch for Luke Best's first novel, Cadaverdog. This book won the 2019 Arts Queensland Thomas Shapcott Prize, named in honour of the distinguished Queensland poet Thomas Shapcott. UQP are proud to partner with this prize and proud of its history and legacy. Luke's manuscript was the 17th winner. I want to thank and acknowledge Arts Queensland, the Queensland Poetry Festival, and the 2019 Shapcott judges, Ali Alizadeh and Felicity Plunkett. I'm really pleased that two other former Shapcott winners, in addition to Felicity, will be gracing us with their presence here tonight. Luke has been a joy to work with. His unalloyed enthusiasm and delight at being on this publishing journey has been infectious. Cadaverdog is a masterful verse novel. Its narrative control is breathtaking. This is a gripping work that draws on the traditions of bush Gothic and Outback horror, suffused with biblical references, to recount a universal and timeless story of loss, grief, and guilt. Simultaneously, Cadaverdog also honours and memorialises an actual event, the 2011 Queensland floods, and reflects back to us the ever-evolving ecological disaster that we are living through. It's that potent mix of the specific and the transcendent that is particularly impressive. Satisfyingly, and you'll just have to buy the book to see exactly what I mean, there's no spoilers here, I'm not opening it, the form of this work in terms of stanza layout perfectly mirrors the content of this engrossing and moving verse novel. Congratulations, Luke. Cadaverdog is a landmark work and a significant achievement, and all of us at UQP are so proud to publish it and you. Before I hand over to Felicity Plunkett, who was Luke's mentor and poetry editor for this book, I would just like to pay tribute to another Felicity, Felicity Dunning, who worked closely with Luke in-house on Cadaverdog and connected with it intimately. And now to the incomparable Felicity P., a former Shapcott winner for her collection Vanishing Point. Her most recent book is the superb A Kinder Sea. Over to you, Felicity.
Thanks very much, Aviva. I'd also like to start by acknowledging that I'm coming to you from the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I want to pay my deep respect to elders past, present and emerging. It's an absolute delight to have the opportunity to say something about this dazzling new book by Luke Best. The challenge that I found, though, is confining my thoughts about it, the last year's worth of thoughts, to 5 minutes. But anyway, here, let's give it a go. I first read Luke's work some years ago when he entered a manuscript in the Thomas Shapcott Prize. It's always a thrill to read a manuscript prize and unpublished manuscripts. And this is a very inspired prize, I think, that continues to launch careers, including Anna's and Ray's, as well as Luke's and my own. I'd like to say congratulations to Arts Queensland and UQP for sustaining this prize, which I think is central to Australian poetry. But it's particularly thrilling when you're reading through that large box of manuscripts, when there is a work that feels so unique, so new and so powerful that you know that you are reading the start of a significant career. Goosebumps effect, I call it. That's my professional term. Over the years, I realised that you do have that kind of response to it. Let's instead refer to Emily Dickinson's phrasing of it. She says, "If I feel physically as if the top of my head were taken off, I know that is poetry." Cadaverdog had a similar effect on me and my co-judge, Ali Alizadeh, when we read it now a couple of years ago. We then had a long conversation, no, not a couple of years ago, a year ago, but I mean, time in 2020 is a very strange construct. We then had a long conversation just about this book. And it was not really a conversation about whether this book was going to win at that stage. It was a conversation exploring as poets how Luke had created what he had. We really didn't need to have such a long conversation to make the actual decision. We relished that conversation as poets. And again, I'd just like to acknowledge the incredible dedication, the amount of time and expertise that Ali brought to that whole conversation and prize judging over some years. When you read this book, which is about the aftermath of a flood, as Aviva has said, you do feel that you are subject to larger forces. And as Ali and I discussed, there are several elements here that make this world so powerful. There's the story itself, which rolls in like a flood, its pace unstoppable, but it also then folds back to reveal this other layer of the story, where there is the exquisite imagery evoking so poignantly the domestic and the shattered, the shards that remain. There are people who face this disaster, which is at once specific, but also, again, as Aviva has said, symbolic of other disasters, especially the ecological ones that we live amongst. Then there's the tense circling of the story's Cadaver Dog, who comes closer and closer to undoing the book's secrets, which are themselves the result of how we as human beings might respond to such trauma and devastation. As a study of trauma and aftermath, this work is incredibly acute and sensitive. Working on the draft and the edit with Luke was quite simply a joy. Luke is infinitely gracious and generous, and there were many questions that I asked about things that Luke was incredibly kind and patient, but we also did go through it really painstakingly, which is what I like to do, and Luke was just the most fantastic person to work with. The brilliance of the craft here, and again, I'm really aware of spoilers in the context of this book, even in relation to form, but formally this book is really quite something special. The number of poetic jagged edges here, the flood-like pace, all of that is matched by Luke's exquisite sensitivity and kindness as he deals with this traumatic situation that he evokes. As the summer skies in Sydney closed in, our sky was red and full of smoke most days. I read about this flood and I felt this could be any of us, and that's part of the humanity of this work. Luke, congratulations. This is an extraordinary work and you two are exceptional. I feel absolutely honoured to have been involved in the process and thrilled to officially declare the book launched. At this point I pour my champagne. So it is now an additional joy for me to pass over to my fellow poet, Robbie Coburn, a poet I admire very much, another poet whose work I've been reading over the years and found a great deal of sustenance and spend a lot of time thinking about too. Robbie is a widely published poet and most recently the author of The Other Flesh. Robbie, over to you.
Thank you so much, Felicity. It means a ridiculous amount coming from you. Firstly, just like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land. It's a real honour to be here with you all virtually. Luke's an incredible poet, and this is an important and groundbreaking collection. He's also one of the most beautiful people I've ever met, and someone I consider a really good friend who inspires me constantly. I was also thinking today about how strange it is throughout the strange times in the world. If it wasn't for those, I probably wouldn't be here as a part of this. So it's some strange little positivity to come out of it to be here. I'm going to be reading from the second section of Cadaverdog, and it contains some of my favourite lines in the book. Let me take you by boat back 5 days when the walls of my house were dry, when murder was a dark thought the clouds had dwelt on, but not acted out. When the great dividing range was sodden, yes, but retaining her resolve, doing her best to swallow the downpours, a pent-up rage in the sky, more rain forecast. Year's end, and Lenina, the little girl from 74, had brought gifts as a doting auntie does. In lieu of socks and jocks, she'd come with clouds she couldn't wrangle into cellophane. Cumulonimbus, thunder, heads drunk with Christmas cheer, and some say petulance. Their mood Grinch darkened, their thunder spouting off like a brag. I was just talking to Luke as well about, I'm going to just read one poem of mine. There's nothing else to really say about it. It's called Rodeo. Rodeo. And now the day clearer, in the unthinkable nameless air, where I may have died in the night, and you were not alerted and not questioning. I remember you here as you are there, the way your heart murmurs as if it were unbalanced and not a part of you. That midnight's calamity to the arrival of hands, carrying you towards your flesh and mine. One night you dreamed you were older, and saw the house burning around you, the walls shrinking as you began tearing them away. The night was too dark for you, and I was never born in that hell eclipsing your birth. Remember, we would wish time was not illusory and not drenched in all the lives we had lived before. The unforgiving landscape where time buried us in the whitening night air. What did you call me, and what did she feed you that I could not counter? That parasitic voice you willed into our lives, which burns my skin at this distance. Within you, and from where I am, in the dawn burning away beyond your gaze, where I have died and been forgotten in an instant. I see it all, believe me. From where I am lying, I have never loved you. I can see my sleeping body vanishing where all the eyes have hungered for becomes as it always was. Even you. I see even the emergence of catastrophe ultimately means nothing. Even the connected bodies mean nothing. Thank you so much. Just once again, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor. Congratulations, Luke. It's such an incredible book. It's a real honor to introduce next Anna Jacobson, who's a fantastic poet whose work I absolutely adore. She's a poet and artist from Brisbane. Her collection, Amnesia Findings, won the 2018 Thomas Shapcott Poetry Prize.
Oh, thank you so much, Robbie. That was beautiful. I too would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I am zooming from tonight, the lands of the Yagara and Turrbal people, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. It's an absolute honour to be here for your Luke tonight, for your launch tonight, Luke. I'm going to read a stanza from Cadaverdog that appears at the top of page 17. I'll then read one of my own poems from my collection Amnesia Findings. But first, to Luke's stunning stanza. Alluvium comes in the aftermath, a silt one stoops to take a pinch of, kneeling in your dining room amid ruin, working the grit between thumb and finger, wondering, what of the preamble? What panic or what calm? Was it bravery or its antithesis? Kneeling still, one thinks, what of the before? I'll now read my poem, Twin Erosion Dreams, as I feel it speaks in some way to Luke's amazing work. Twin Erosion Dreams. I walk through an eroding city. Water laps high above ground. My mother makes wine in the swimming pool, spoiled by eroding dirt. Twin erosion dreams in one night, a new record for us. She looks up the dream meaning, discovers we are going through times of emotional stress, new beginnings. I'd now like to pass the mic on to the wonderful Ray White. Ray White is an award-winning poet, writer, and educator whose collection Milk Teeth won the 2017 Thomas Shapcott Poetry Prize.
Oh, thank you so much, Anna. That was a gorgeous reading. I'll acknowledge that I am on the lands of the Yagara and Turrbal people as well, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and future. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of your launch, Luke. This is absolutely wonderful and I feel so incredibly honoured. I'm going to read a stanza that is on page 21 if you want to read along. From our veranda, we could see the stilted houses strewn among the foothills, set back sensibly from the creek, each bearing a yellow hue, duller than usual for the pouring rain, as if the great range was swamping us all, the yellow hues, duller still, overcome by sloughs of mud. And I have a special interest, I guess, or obsession with the 1974 and 2011 floods, as the latter, something that I lived through. So I'm going to read a poem from my own book, Milk Teeth, which draws on those floods and also refers to a video installation called Flooded McDonald's by Superflex. This poem's called Flooded Macca's. Ron recalls hiss and trickle seeping under door. The sloshing damp pushed back with brooms and wads of napkins. George said, she'll be right, mate. Won't be nothing like 74. But fries slide from tables, fleeing in red cardboard boats. Milton Road's a water park for drifting cups and straws. Ron takes a piss in the bubbled water, aims at burger wrappers wafting past, squid-like and serene. Ain't nothing to be done. So he topples, floating on his back, pretends he's up the coast in a swanky hotel pool. Beside him, cash registers spark and crackle. A deconstructed burger crumbles and sinks. Luke, thank you so much again for inviting me to speak at your launch. This book is such, I'll hold it up. It's such an incredible feat. It's such an extraordinarily unflinching, claustrophobic, horrific yet hopeful verse novel. It's an amazing achievement. So huge congratulations. And on to you, Luke Best, for the amazing book, Cadaverdog.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm completely blown away by your kind words and those readings. Just absolutely, just completely blown away. I don't know how I'm going to follow that. So thank you so much. I'm here with my family tonight. We're having a bit of a launch party at Mum and Dad's. So we're trying to keep a rein on about 100 kids out there. It's good. Yeah, there's seven of them. So it's quite a task, but thank you so much for everyone for taking the time to log on tonight and be a part of helping me launch this book. Just means so much to me, and I'm so honoured by the fact that some of my poetry peers have joined us tonight, especially those who have read from a book. Robbie, Anna and Ray, thank you so much. It's quite something hearing your own work in another's voice. So, and so awesome to hear your own work as well. It's disappointing that we can't do this in person, but it means that my family here in Toowoomba, those of you who've logged in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and my sister up in Emerald, Central Queensland, just means we can all, sorry, I'm getting a bit emotional, can all sort of be here in the same virtual room together and share this moment. So thank you so much. God, I didn't know I was going to cry. Big thank you to Avid Reader for hosting tonight. You guys just do a wonderful job. And to the wonderful Zen Frost, who sent me a really nice hamper full of wine and other goodies today from QPF. So thank you so much. You do a wonderful job. I've got a lot more people to thank, so I hope you can all bear with me. But yeah, I really want to thank the people at UQP. UQP is just made up of some of the most passionate, professional and dedicated women in Australian publishing, and I've just been so overwhelmed by the support of you all. Some special mentions to Aviva Tuffield, first of all, your constant support and encouragement has just been nothing short of amazing. Thank you so much, Aviva. I could tell from the first day we met at QPF that you just had such a warm heart, and I've been very spoilt to have you as the overseer of this whole project. To Madonna Duffy for your wonderful support and encouragement. And you're an ex-Toowoomba girl, so I believe, so made of the right stuff. To Sally Wilson, you've been just so great in organising me for media appointments, this launch, and really just giving me some valuable advice in talking to the media, something that I'm terrified of. Your advice was timely and just so very helpful. Thank you, Sally. A profound thank you to these next two women, affectionately known to me as the Felicities. That is Felicity Dunning and Felicity Plunkett. The Felicities are two of the most talented and intelligent women in publishing. Every publishing house needs to give them some Felicities. I've been trying to think of an apt collective now, actually, for a group of Felicities. And I think, just going from my experience, I think the most fitting word would be a gift of Felicities. Working with you has just been such a gift. To Felicity Dunning first, your talent for looking at the text and just somehow innately knowing what was needed, whether it be a comma or an em dash, unspaced em dash as was my preference, to phrasing or eliminating repetitiveness. You really helped me clean up the manuscript. I'm so grateful for your expert eye, and your emails made me smile, and it's such a tonic as well. So thank you, Felicity Dunning, and you're another ex-Toowoomba girl. To Felicity Plunkett, I just think you're simply one of the most unselfish and encouraging and beautiful people I've ever had the pleasure of meeting and working with. 10 years ago, an email from you encouraging me to keep writing and read more and try again just spurred me on to where I am now. And from the start of the editing process, you made me look at this book through my eyes and just helped me see its potential. And yeah, your editorial touch was what I believe made the book what it is. So thank you from my heart, Felicity. So yes, I truly believe you're a gift of Felicities, plural. I've got a few more really important people to thank tonight, and now that I've got all my sooks and cries out, I'll continue, because these people really mean a lot to me. That's my family, my beautiful mum and dad. I'll start with first. My dad, Bob. It means more than you'll ever know that you've my wife's rubbing my shoulder, that you've read my book and even quoted lines of it back to me. I just was completely taken aback by that. Without spoiling the book, for those who haven't read it, the antagonist in the book was not based on my dad. When you read it and discover the coward in these pages, my dad is the polar opposite to him. So I love you, Dad. To my beautiful mum, Leslie, who raised 5 of us little rodents. You're the first example of a woman with such grace and steadfastness, and your unwavering love and support has shaped me. And this book is the result of that. To my brother JJ Best, I love you, mate. Can you encourage the brothers-in-law to please get some culture about them and read the book? That would be great. To my brother from another mother, Robbie Coburn. Thank you so much for speaking tonight, mate. Me and Robbie met a while ago on social media, and we were both tortured poets who were both going through a bit of a rough patch, and shared some almost identical bad experiences with trying to get our books published. And to the both of us, it just looked like it would never happen. Anyway, a beautiful friendship was born, and we just kept encouraging each other. And now 2 years down the track, and we've both been published. It's the second time for Robbie. His book, Another Flesh, is just exceptional work and required reading. And me and Robbie, we are constantly chatting on the phone or texting or sharing our work. And I really value that, mate. So love you, Robbie.
Love you, mate.
Another few thank yous to Joel Dean, Simon Cleary and Damon O'Brien. Thank you, lads, for your support. Joel, just for being a legend and inspiring me with Year of the Wasp and your lovely comments on the book. Simon, for recommending the work of Luke Davies to me about 10 years ago, and your support. And Damon, who's a phenomenal poet, whose emails I look forward to. Now, as you'll find when you read the book, the protagonist is a woman who falls on very hard times. She's courageous and resilient, and she's a bit flawed too, but who isn't? But I have such respect for the women in my life, and just because they're such tough creatures, but elegantly so. I've already mentioned my precious mum, who, as I said, raised 5 of us. She had 5 under 5, which is just resilience personified. But to some other women, my 3 sisters, Hayley, Natalie and Ashley, you've each faced challenges in your life, each in varying phases and severities, and I drew on your courage to put life into the protagonist of this book. And Hazy, you've always been one of my biggest supporters and such an encouragement. And finally, to my wife, Bianca, who's in the room with me, thank you. You are an enduring example of a strong and absolutely beautiful woman in my life, and your grace and exuberance and loving kindness is the light of my every day. And so I love you with all my heart. So if it wasn't clear enough, I love you all. Finally, I'll read a stanza from the book, a book that I guess, being of the hybrid genre that it is, will hopefully gain some readers that usually wouldn't read poetry. But I think it was to you, Felicity Dunning, that I recently shared a quote with about verse novels, which said, "The verse novel is like the awkward child of successful parents. It is destined to disappoint both of them." So I hope that's not the case. So let me read now from my book. This is from page 85. Kneeling and glaring into the scene, my mind floats away to salvage and recollect a winter night, drier times, hard in their own way. We and the walls huddled round the hearth, the kids bathed and smelling of milk, the blocks of ironbark smelting like ingots of gold. We'd traded off as parents of toddlers do. He'd wrestle them into bed if I'd take out our rubbish for collection day and get more wood for the night burn. Domestic scene, prosaic and of the first world, and a fair trade, since both tasks involved elements of dread. Toddlers, like terrorists, are inexorable, and the wood wasn't cut. Thank you so much. Sorry for getting so emotional.
Thank you, Luke. We might head to questions now. We've had a few coming through. I'll read out the comment that came through from Zen, Anna, Michael and Andrew at Queensland Poetry Festival. They've said massive congratulations from all of us. We're having other congratulations coming through. Jennifer. First question, What other books and verse novels inspired Cadaverdog?
Yeah, so I guess I threw back to a few Aussie versions of the verse novel. Dorothy Porter, The Monkey's Mask, and also Beck Jesson, who I think is logged on tonight as well. Her verse novel, The Gap, or Gap, sorry. Yeah, inspired me to look at the long form narrative. But I guess really, as I mentioned before, Simon Cleary recommending me to read Luke Davies' work. Now, it's not strictly verse novels, his totem and interference psalms, but that just long form narrative poetry really I was a big fan of. Yeah.
Thanks. Damon, who you mentioned earlier, has asked, what would you like the survivors of the floods to take from your poetry? And I'd like to add from that, and what would you like all readers to take from your poetry as well?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I really think the book was a meditation on trauma and loss and how we respond to that. So I was asking a lot of questions in the book about, why do we respond the way we do as humans? Our first response is to save ourselves and just look so inwardly. And so, I guess I was asking those questions. I wasn't answering them in the book, but I hope that answers the question.
How did you weave and reimagine elements of bush Gothic and Outback horror into this work?
Geez, I don't know. Very good question. I'm a real big fan of a gritty Gothic tale. So, I don't know. It's I didn't want to write something too fluffy or sunny. That's not life. Life is, it's not like that. There's a lot of trauma and loss, and it's well, I guess from a personal point of view, my son, I'm the father of 3, so my youngest was born with cystic fibrosis, and when he was born, I took it pretty hard, and I sort of just become a bit of a selfish prick, I guess you'd say, and just look very inwardly, and I just wanted to explore why we do that, why we're so flawed as humans, and just wanted to examine my own thoughts and look at that, all of that sort of thing.
Thank you. Stu says, congratulations, Luke. How did you come to the book's stanza form, or how did it come to you?
I had read Vikram Seth's The Golden Gate, and for those of you who haven't read that book, it's a verse novel set in California, or San Francisco to be exact, and it's 300 pages of sonnets, so it's amazing attention to form, and so I really wanted my verse novel to have a lot of form, and so I guess a book that's based on the Darling Downs and on the Toowoomba Range, it's a mountain face, it's a cliff face, so I wanted to sort of shape the poems to look like a cliff. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun and quite difficult to achieve.
On that note, we have a question. Is there a Toowoomba poetry style, or are you pioneering it?
No, I'm it. Because all of the good poets have left. I mean, Beck Jesson's gone to Brisbane. Who else is there? Who else was there? Bruce Dorr. Well, unfortunately, he's passed away. So I'm it. Yeah.
And Luke, as a final question, I would love to know if you are working on anything else at the moment, and what's next for you. at the launch of your book, I'm asking the hard question, what are you working on now? But I'm sure that, well, lots of people want to know.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I am working on another manuscript. It's called The Tenements. It's a meditation on memory and how memory works and how our brains retain memory. And yeah, it's proving a lot of fun to write as well. So,
Lovely, thank you. Well, we might, I might hand back to you if you have any last comments. Otherwise, I am sure, I didn't let the audience know this, but I am going to take you all off mute so that you can join me in thanking Luke, Felicity, Robbie, Ray, Anna, and Aviva for tonight's fantastic event, and so that you can join me in congratulating Luke once again. So yeah, did you have any final comments that you wanted to make, Luke, before I open up the room to...
no, I'm just going to quickly flick through who else was here. Thank you so much, everyone. Stu Barnes, Felicity Dunning. Oh, I can see my family from Brizzy, Damon, Malcolm and Prue, my mum and dad-in-law. Thank you so much, everyone. Beck and Zen, I can see you there too, Madonna.
I'm going to take everybody off now so that they can join me in thanking you all. Lovely. You're all off mute now, everyone. Congratulations, Luke.
Congratulations, Luke.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Have a lovely night.
Thank you.